Hi, Virgo. The Leos are gonna get mad. Like, wait, shouldn't this be ours? Already, we got cards. 5 of Pentacles, 5 of Wands, and the 9 of Pentacles. Let's see if I can show them to you. Come on, cards. Let's do them one at a time. No, you're gonna understand why I'm using the effect. You'll get it. Boom. There it is. 5 of Pentacles. Why is that important? There's a lot of stuff you got to throw out. We got to talk about emotional hoarding and the conflicts it causes. We have to talk about how there is something new, something different, a new way for you to earn money, a new way for you to identify yourself, just waiting for you to get rid of this baggage. Whatever experiences have made you doubt yourself, perhaps your value, perhaps your direction, no longer. You have to do something new now. You must fight whatever is in you that's risk averse, whatever in you doesn't want the spotlight, whatever in you keeps you safe, and yank it out, because things have to change now. Those of you who have had pressure put on your relationships, either the relationships are cracking or they're becoming deeper, more serious, more satisfying. Pressure makes some people focus, it makes other people fold. So right now in your relationships, you're either folding or focusing. If you are folding, or if the other person is folding, yet another prompt for you to start doing things differently. You've got to see yourself differently. As long as your self-image is what it used to be, it doesn't matter how much you strive. Nothing can come of it. Do you understand? Your self-image will assure that your subconscious, which is running the show, micro adjusts all the time to make sure that self-image is accurate. You have zero control over that, except that you have complete control over building the self-image. Yours is out of date. And January, especially after the 18th, really wants to show that to you. Where you need an overhaul, where you need to let certain ideas about work, certain ideas about commitment, where you need to completely get rid of them, because there is like a badass new person here that wants to emerge. And this person is very clear on what they want, and that's not you right now. If you're dealing with an air sign and you've had a really big blow up of some kind, that's okay. The best thing about the Tower card is at least things change. At least things change. If up until now you have been the mild-mannered hoarder of emotions, hoarder of people who never do as much for you as you do for them, this is the month where you find the voice to say, hey, I'm sorry, I don't think I can actually be your yes person anymore. I know you want me to do as you want me to do, especially if there is an authority figure in your life pushing you. I know you want it to be a certain way, but it just can't be that way. I just don't want that. I'm so very sorry. What do you want? You want to walk off that cliff and take a bunch of risks and become a whole new person. Remember what happens to her? She's this mild-mannered scientist, and she gets pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed, and then she gets pushed off a roof, and she finds herself in Catwoman. The new you is lucky and a badass and can do all the things with that Mars in Taurus, fellow earth sign. She can do all the things that you won't permit yourself to do. She can also acknowledge and move on from a broken heart instead of staying stuck in the pain and just wallowing in it, self-destructive behavior all the way. This new avatar of yours can take care of this stuff because they won't be as emotionally attached to these things. Your new self-image will have a much easier time getting rid of some of this stuff, especially if there's a stagnant relationship in your life, which it obviously feels like there is. The rebirth of your love life, whether it's, again, the deepening of an existing relationship that just got way more serious, or something new coming in where you're thinking, oh my God, where have you been all of my life? You remind me of someone I knew when I was younger. Complete overhaul. And the only difference between this overhaul and the many that you went through in 2020 is that this one is specifically about you being true to yourself. The true version of you is a lot closer to this than to what people see of you. And I think part of the reason you don't let this part of you out is that you're afraid that it's almost too much of a caricature. It's, you know, it's a comic book character, whether it's a villain or a hero, it's someone who's larger than life. I think you are larger than life, but you play it small, you play it normal. January is like, aren't you tired of playing it normal? Aren't you tired of playing it small? If you lost your job, look for a job in a completely different environment, something that you've never allowed yourself to think that a business you could be in or a field you could be in, something you always wanted to do when you were a kid. Try something that 18-year-old you, if you're older, or 15-year-old you, if you're younger, would look at and say, wait, how can you do that? I would never do that. Like, why are you dealing with that? Why are you putting up with that? That part of you, that self-image that is way more authentic than whatever you got going on right now, is crying out to be known and acknowledged and to take control. It really wants to, especially in January. You start to feel the first kind of rumblings of that. Like, hey, I'm in here and I'm a badass, and all these different things that you're having such a hard time saying no to, getting out of your life, standing up to. I can do all of those things, but then you've got to let me rock. You've got to acknowledge that I exist, and you've got to kind of give over control to me. That's very difficult. It's difficult for you to give control over even to yourself. So first you've got to build this self-image. You've got to trust this self-image, and then you've got to hand these things over that up until now, the version of you are right now has not been able to handle them and is not handling them. So what in your astrology speaks to this right now? Everything speaks to you finding some emotional peace. Your emotional peace comes at the price of the old you disappearing. That person who took everybody's obligations onto themselves, took everybody's well-being as their own responsibility, that person takes a hike. Not that you're not still a humanitarian and kind and giving and a good friend and healing, you are, but you start to carve a bit of space out for yourself. Not for love, not even for money, just for you to feel good, to find your true self, to live in that authentic truth. It's a big deal to you right now, and it's going to tie into the next money opportunity coming your way, and of course it ties into whoever walks into your life, whether as a friend, a lover, it doesn't matter. So take a risk, do things based on how you feel about them, okay? Anyone or anywhere where there's these stagnant relationships in your life that are just pulling from you, I know you've been dealing with it for a long time, but in January, you will see how you trying to carve time out for yourself makes those people so irate. They cannot stand the idea of you giving to yourself. They are terrified of this new you. They want nothing to do with comic book version of you because they know that comic book version of you, the first thing they're going to do is get rid of them. So you've got an incredible chance right now to help yourself out, to allow the dead and fallen remnants of whatever used to be to leave your life instead of, being that stem on the plant that you're supposed to trim or prune because it's just taking water, but it's dead already. It's just taking water for no reason. You're the water. You should be able to choose who it nourishes, no? Just saying, just saying. The other thing, the reason I'm doing this is I want you to start thinking like this, thinking completely outside of the box. What are those new tactics that you can use? What's the new world look like in terms of job market? What's the new world look like in terms of dating and going out? Like, you don't have to be beholden to who you used to be, what people think it should be like, what the status quo is. If you could completely come out of the box, what would you do? How would you dress? What would you say? What would you pursue? What would you want to get working? That is what January forces you into. And it's amazing because you're not going to do it any other way. And then you'll just not be as happy as you could. And somehow that's supposed to be fine because you're not miserable. No, we want big happiness. We want big, exciting happiness. Don't we? We do. You got to keep an eye on your health. That's the other thing I have written down here. The stress-related illness stuff is severe. If you don't make these changes, if you don't start to recreate a new self-image, things will happen throughout the month that will attack that old self-image and will make you feel terrible if you're still holding on to those things as priorities and your list of priorities and what's important. It will wreak havoc with you if you don't change it. And the other thing I have written down here is multiple streams of income. Sorry, I had to itch my face. Multiple streams of income. So right now, this thinking outside of the box, this coming up with a completely different way of looking at things can bring you several different ways to add to a larger pot. And before you know it, you've got all these different streams coming in. And although each one on their own may not be doing a lot, all together, it's quite some. So start thinking in that way, completely outside of what you've done so far or what you've thought for yourself, how you could see yourself, and then go from there. I know it's a lot to ask, but considering what last month was like and the amount of changes that you've gone through and the hurt and the pain, I think this is a welcome change. I think it'll be refreshing for you. And I think you're a bit late, actually. It's time is what I mean. It's time. Good. Mwah. Mwah. I love you. Let's look at these cards. Don't worry, they'll be normal. Hi, Virgo. Welcome to the second part of your reading. I hope I got my point across. You have this mild-mannered exterior, but you're real badasses underneath. And might be a bit of a shock, a bit sudden, that all of a sudden now January wants to bring that out of you, but it's only a shock to you. Everyone around you is keenly aware of how much you need to change and how much you need to recalibrate. Now, for some of you, it may just be in one aspect of your life, right? There are some of you who have hit on a sweet spot when it comes to love. Those of you who are in long-term relationships. And like I said, the pressure was put on the relationship and the relationship bloomed. People stepped up and took accountability or stepped up and took a risk. And you're both feeling great. For those of you who were in a relationship that was a bit tenuous to begin with, long distance especially, things get super difficult only because it's very hard to keep a positive self-image when someone is giving you all the signals that no, in fact, they don't think that that's what you are. Now, some of that is just the loss that happens with distance, right? It's lost in the distance. But there's more than that, because some of you are actually with people right now who you have this distance from. So it doesn't have to be geographic. It's just when two people start to, they start to move away from each other. They start to pull away from each other. You have that moment where you can, everyone knows that there's that moment where you can try or you can give up. And in January, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on what it is that you want, many couples do decide to give up. At the same time, like I said, there are many who get way more involved. The relationship gets deeper, they're having a baby, they're getting married. So it really does depend on how you, and if you have a partner, you react to stress. Now, those of you who are completely single, right now is the absolute wrong time for you to be trying to get with anyone, because this image overhaul that you're going through, it isn't just about how you look, and it isn't just about what you do for a living. It's about you, perhaps for the first time, being really honest about what you're like inside. That stuff that you don't let anyone see? Virgos all have this quality where there's this other version of you that does and says and thinks all sorts of things that you would feel too ashamed to ever admit or do or say in front of people that know you. You may do it and say it when you're away from the people that know you. Virgos are also notorious for being crazy on vacation. But now January is like, okay, well, that's a pretty puerile version of evolving or having an alter ego, right? Let's do more than just get crazy on vacation. How about we refine that more authentic you? The one that's into taking risks, the one that thinks outside of the box, the one that doesn't feel the need to emotionally hoard. Why don't we take that version of you and put them in a position of power instead of just coming out on vacation or coming out when inebriated or coming out when in some way or other, right, intoxicated? What if that person could actually run the show? Sure, that person's a bit more reckless than you are, and they do have a bit of a ruthless streak in that if someone is not good for them or holding them back or hampering them in some way, they're real good at getting rid of that person. That's something that you're not very good at. So January wants to bring out that other, tougher, more gritty version of you that doesn't feel everyone's pain like your own and therefore can make difficult decisions that are in your best interest. One of the major drawbacks of being an empathetic person is just that it's very hard to set boundaries with people because you're aware of how they'll feel about it. So you can be Selina Kyle all you want. But your life, it's not evolving and changing and moving forward like it should. Now, like I said, for some of you, this applies to love, work, everything. For some of you, it's just about work. Do you want to continue to be a cog in the system? Or do you want to do something for yourself? That's the conversation. That's what's on your mind. That's what all your actions are geared towards in January. And that other version of you, the one, let's be honest here, the real you, that Catwoman, she knows what's up and is completely capable of dealing with January. So let her. Why not? I mean, something has to change. Obviously, you keep getting the Tower card. Something has to change. The cool thing about astrology, the cool thing about tarot is that it gives you that surfboard. You can see the wave coming, you can paddle out in front of it, and you can catch it. This is one of those moments, because when this wave hits you in February and you're not ready for it because you didn't catch it, and instead of surfing it, it crashes on you, it's really going to hurt. So January is your grace period to get yourself sharpened up, clean house, emotionally, gut it out and clean it up. And that only happens when you think outside of the box and you walk off this cliff. What you have told yourself up until now you are worthy of is not accurate. What you have told yourself you are capable of is not accurate. You are capable of so much more. You've just been playing it small so long so the people around you don't feel bad that you've forgotten how big you are. And January is going to remind you. And between the 13th and 22nd, just don't say much to anyone because you're going to be mean to them even if you don't want to. There's a lot of swords here. Your words are just going to get sharper and sharper as Jupiter squares Uranus, Jupiter squares Mars. You don't need the added hassle and the added karmic drawbacks of telling people things they don't want to hear, giving unsolicited advice, criticizing people who didn't even ask you. Just leave them alone. Leave them alone and focus on yourself. The worst thing you can do right now is try to kind of dictate other people's lives when you're trying to get your own life together. And I'm not saying that to be in any way condescending. It's just that last month was really difficult. There's all these moving pieces, right? Things fell apart and now there's all these moving parts. And it's really important for you to keep an eye on what you're doing, which should leave you no time to say anything to anyone else about what they're doing, especially if they didn't even ask you. Because one of the best ways to get embarrassed in January is giving unsolicited advice. Someone is going to turn around and legitimately be like, who asked you? And we don't need that. So stick to your own thing. Do what you're supposed to. Take advantage of this grace period. Paddle out in front of this wave. Whatever metaphor works for you, but get this process started and start integrating that new self-image that's really just you, but you don't allow that side of you out. So it's not even like you have to integrate it. It's more you have to just allow it and let that version of you handle what comes up. Let your mind think as it always does, but back it up. Give it your support. Give it your encouragement. When it thinks something up, don't shoot it down. Give it space. Think it through. Don't just stick to what you think is on your list and that's all you're ever going to be able to do and that's what you have to choose from. No, it's not. No, it's not. All right. Well, all the love stuff and the other money stuff and clarifying each card and what happens at the beginning of February, that's all in the extended. There's a link to that below. There's a link to everything at the website at ambercon.com. But there are also individual links below. Personal readings, the extended version of this reading, which is on Vimeo or available through a PayPal link. Personal readings that are recorded and sent to you or live one-on-one video chat readings. Merchandise, the Quietest Revolution rings. This one is the Empress. There's a link for you to check out photos, buy. What else? There is a guided meditation on Lunar New Year on February 12th, inshallah. And there is a link to that below as well. What else? What else? I know I'm missing something. Oh, right. If you're interested in daily astrology, if you want to take a look at your daily horoscope, there is a link to join the Rev Fam on Instagram at the Quietest Revolution. It's super fun. And we take a look at the daily transits and how they affect your sign. All right. That's it, fam. I will see you in the extended right now. I love you.